Happy Tuesday, everybody. My name's Aaron Conant. I'm the co-founder, managing director here at BWG Connect. We're a giant networking group of digital professionals. Kicked it off 8 years ago. It's basically a resource for brands to be able to reach out and network, knowledge share. I spend the majority of my time talking to organizations around digital strategy. What are your biggest pain points? What are you trying to solve for? And who's helping you do it? And it's from those one-on-one connections. I try to have close to 1,000 of those every year that we get the topics for the webinars and the dinners that we do and the podcast as well. But we also get the recommendations around the partners that are out there that are doing the coolest, neatest, newest stuff and are really changing the landscape. And so when the same partners come up over and over again, and when the same topics come up over and over again, we do an event like this. A really quick note, if anybody's going out to Shop Talk, we're doing a couple of events out there. Would love to meet you in person. Just ping us after the webinar here, and we'll make sure we get you an invite. So if we jump into today, harnessing AI to transfer customer engagement, what I've seen a lot of, and I've heard a lot of in conversations, is where people are now excited about AI and ML from the standpoint of it's actually a lower cost than what's currently happening out there, and there's huge focus on profitability. But also the advancements are far enough along that it's really working. And so there's a lot more trust and there's a lot lower cost as a whole. And that gets a lot of brands really excited. And so we've got some friends, partners, supporters of the network over at indigitall, and Josh Rice, who's here today to kind of walk us through what they're seeing across the landscape. A couple things before we get started. We want to make it as educational and informational as possible. Any point in time, if you have a question, drop it in the chat, drop it in the Q&A, and we'll get it answered as soon as we can. We'll just work it into the conversation. But with that, Josh, I'll kick it over to you if you want to do a brief intro on yourself, and then indigitall, that'd be awesome. And then we can kind of get into the heart of the conversation. Sound good?
Yeah, it sounds perfect, Darren, and thanks for having me. So I'm Josh Rice. I'm the head of marketing here at indigitall, and indigitall is an omni-channel customer engagement platform, and we're the only customer engagement platform that's currently offering both inbound and outbound digital channels all in one holistic system. So we're helping brands all across the world build deeper connections with their customers, and in large part built through AI or using AI. Is where we're really helping a lot of brands and customers in our network today. So excited to be here.
Yeah. Awesome. So, I mean, we can kind of just kick this off. Like, where do you see this as a standpoint? And I want to go back a little bit, maybe just, maybe a year or so. Where were we at, and then where are we at now, and what are the advancements that are out there? And then we'll just kind of work through, looks like the deck here that you have. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds perfect. And I think you summarized the top of the call pretty well, which is I think we're getting to the point now where there's a level of trust involved in utilizing AI, and particularly for larger brands. If you go back a year ago, this emerging technology, there's a lot of potential upside, but it was fun to play with, and it wasn't necessarily something you'd use for a final product or rely on or trust for a final product, whether that be generative AI and creating copy or text or even images, or things like chatbots, starting to emerge about a year ago. And today, every single month there is a new system, a new model, a new program that is kind of changing the game. And the pace of change has just become more and more rapid when it comes to this technology. But we're definitely, I think, at a point now where trust is something that can be consistently had with these types of systems. And it's gonna change everything I think about marketing in the next few years, and it already is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's probably the biggest thing is there was an excitement a year ago, a year, maybe even I
Yeah,
should say year and a half, 2 years ago,
yeah,
when ChatGPT hits and everybody's excited, and then there's a massive letdown. Right? Because everybody was trying to put AI and ML on top of like rules
yeah,
based, and it wasn't quite working out, or it took a long time to train all of this different AI that's coming out. But we're at a point now where it's actually rolling out. People are using it, they're loving it, they're recommending it, and I'm
yep,
excited for
yep,
I'm excited for the
exactly,
next year. That's what I'm excited for. So,
exactly.
Yeah, when you take a look at this, what excites you the most about this space? And then I want to get, specifically into the customer service side of it as well, because I think what we have, when we start with customer service, it's not, I would say, the way people think about generative AI traditionally
Yeah.
from the standpoint of it's going to create an image and that image is going to look kind of wonky. It may or may not work, but how
Yep.
we can use it in a customer service aspect as well.
Yeah, I think overall customer experience in general is going to change as we move along. And some of the things I'm excited for are what's on the slide, right? Which is basically improving your customer experience across all of your touch points. Having a solution and capability set that enables things like personalization at scale, that reduces your repetitive tasks, that allows for 24/7 customer support in a way that is reasonably personable and effective, um, and also helps with some of these things like we've talked about, things like profitability, right? Consumer spending is going down and down as we've seen over the last 3 or 4 months, and there's going to be increased competition and a need for optimization, and that's where things like AI are really going to be helpful and effective in producing better results for businesses. And on the customer service angle, again, it is how can you be more efficient and effective while also producing an experience that is better for your consumers. And I think that's also something that things like AI chatbots are really going to have a huge impact on, in the next couple of years.
What should people be thinking about when they hear AI chat bots? Because it's one of those starting places where I think a lot of people are getting bombarded right now. Hey, we've got an AI chat bot. We're going to eliminate this much time for customer service,
Yep.
interactions as a whole. What should people be thinking about when they're approached with, hey, we've got an AI chat bot. What does best in class look like?
Yep.
And then, oh, maybe he's here. Awesome. One step ahead of me.
Yeah, yeah, like, exactly.
And then the other thing that just comes up a lot is just around the personalization front, because
Yep.
personalization is a huge theme and how we'd work into, in my mind, personalization would be perfect for a chatbot as a whole. So I'm not treated like I'm just another, I'm segmented into this group and you're not really talking to me.
Yeah. I think chatbots really historically have been very programmatic and rules based, as you kind of mentioned, earlier, meaning that there was predefined kind of routes or scripts that it had available to it. And with AI, we kind of seen kind of an increase in more conversational capabilities, um, and that's going to continue, I think, to increase over time. I think where we are now and where I think kind of the perfect balance is for the incorporation of AI for businesses is really more of a hybrid approach. Here in digital, we have a lot of experience building chatbots, working with businesses on very advanced use cases, things like, everything from building out, retail catalogs within a chatbot so people can kind of shop on these huge, huge catalogs of goods and find the things that they want, all the way to just very basic customer service capabilities. But where we've really found is kind of a good balance for most businesses is having more of a hybrid approach. And what we mean by that is that you have a kind of a layer of AI capabilities of conversational AI that's resolving the majority of your customers' issues, and but also has a backend that is human based. And so if a chatbot runs into issues where it has a question it can't answer, or there might be even predefined questions that it says, hey, we're going to pass this to someone because it sounds like you're frustrated, or it seems like it's an issue that requires some more hands-on expertise. It's able to then pass it off to an actual individual. But what you get from that though is you get this huge increase in efficiency and improvement in overall the customer experience. And think about even having 24/7 support. A lot of businesses don't have that currently. And even enabling that through an AI bot is something that can be a huge game changer for your consumer base, because you might have customers all of the globe or even all over the country, and maybe someone works third shift and they don't have time to contact customer support unless it's 3 a.m. in the morning when no one's online. So I think it's going to continue to evolve and get better and better and better and more personable. I think the kind of big increases you're going to see from a personalization perspective is the integration of disparate platforms and data sets that you're going to have through your systems, right? Things like past purchase history, things like, other third-party traffic information or information you're gathering within your CRM or your CDP or even external databases, incorporating that into the logic base and the AI rule sets to have a more and more personalized experience within a chatbot solution. And we're already starting to do that here in digital. We have AI-based capability or API-based capabilities. We're able to kind of connect disparate data sets into one chatbot and program it in a way that it's giving answers that are personal to that one individual. Personalization also just generally is something that I think people more and more today are expecting. I think something like 70% of consumers expect to have personalized recommendations and a more personalized approach when it comes to purchasing things from brands. So I think that's definitely going to continue increasing both as a trend and as a necessity for brands to compete today.
Yeah, I think especially around the conversational side, when I
Yeah.
think conversational, I think about just how my search has changed over the past year interacting with ChatGPT or Perplexity.
Mhm.
How I interact on those platforms from an AI platform is distinctly different than a Bing or a Google search,
Yep.
right? And that for me gets even more personal because I think like I'm having a conversation almost. And so
Yeah.
where does that break down? It breaks down when I'm trying, just I think about um, if I plan a vacation on Google, it is best places Florence, as opposed
Hmm.
to when I'm on ChatGPT, it is, hey, I'm thinking about heading away for my 25th wedding anniversary to Florence. You recommend things to do. Like, it's I'm putting a
Yep.
lot more into it, and it's a lot again that
Yeah.
gets the conversational piece. And if it kicks back, oh, looks like you are planning something. Well, I just,
Yep.
well, yeah, that's a disconnect that happens, and it takes away
Yeah.
from that, and it immediately makes my brain flip back to the old way of doing a conversation with a chatbot. And so, are you guys seeing a development on that side as well, where how people are searching and how
Definitely. I
people
mean, I
interact?
think I 100% agree in terms of kind of, how I'm using things like ChatGPT and Perplexity and other models. It is uh, this level of specificity, I think, is something that continues to kind of be a need within the chatbot space. But I think as we kind of go along and as these systems start learning about your individual habits and needs, it's going to start creating more and more personalized answers. I think we're not 100% there yet. I think there's the availability and possibility from it. I think kind of um, the main sticking point right now, I think, is the efficiency of the backend systems that are using these models, right? If it's creating a custom model just for you, think about how much kind of processing power is required for that specific application versus having a very generalized model that answers the same question to the same way to the same people, right? Or to different people rather. So if you ask about, vacation trips ideas in Florence, and so do I, it's probably going to give a very similar answer. I think where we're starting to head is that over time, it's going to give you specific personalized recommendations based on that past history, right? Like I'll give an example because I'm planning my honeymoon. My fiance, she is a gluten-free intolerant. She's unable to eat gluten or any kind of gluten, type materials. And so when I'm searching for vacation spots, I'm also adding some of those things now of find me restaurants with gluten-free options. And it's then trying to search and find those things. But, a year or two from now, it might be that it's learned that about, hey, you are typically asking for gluten-free restaurants when you're searching for restaurant recommendations. It's going to automatically start taking that into consideration when it's giving you an answer in response. And there is a level of that capability now, even within solutions like in digital, where that segmentation can help drive and personalize the experience on a conversational level. If it knows that you're interested in looking for XYZ, product, it's going to give you recommendations that are similar to those products based on the information it has available to it. A lot of it goes back to kind of how you set up your data and how you're then feeding that into the program and adapting it. But those capabilities are possible today. I just think they're not fully realized in terms of their total capability because we're still somewhat early on in this AI journey.
Yeah, but I think from a hyper personalization standpoint, in a lot of these cases, you don't, the brand, the actual website can be looking at how somebody is,
Yep.
bouncing around, right? And what they're looking at.
Hmm.
Hey, are they a bargain shopper, or
Yep.
hey, are they looking for a dress, or looking for a pair of shoes, or whatever it might be. But also especially with a chat bot, as I think we get more and more comfortable with asking for help because it's getting more
Yep.
personalized. If we can get the users on the front end, encourage them to put more information in, it'll be more personalized on its way out, right? And
Yeah.
that's
And that prompting optimization, I think, is still something that most brands are still figuring out, right? That most businesses are still trying to figure out the best prompts for chatbots. I mean, chatbots have been around for a long time, but now that you're getting into this non-programmatic, non-rules based, more conversational type AI, that experience is still shifting and people are still learning from it.
Yeah.
Um,
Just a quick reminder, as anybody, if you have questions, drop them in the chat, drop them in the Q&A, and we'll get them answered as we go here. And so one of the questions that just comes in is just around implementation,
yep.
and just the implementation as a whole around any of this new AI tech. So I think we can apply it specifically to you. Like, eh, what is the lift by an organization? Because if you're just plugging in, email marketing service, right, or something like that, you already know. But in this case, you're trying to plug into multiple things. Like, what does that look like? Like, what are the biggest hurdles, or how long does it take?
It really depends on the level of complexity that you're aiming for and the experience you're aiming for. And I'm going to pull up here a different slide here that talks a little bit about some of this.
Yeah,
And
and
to
sorry
some
if I'm not
extent,
going straight through the slide deck.
no,
If
no
you want to go
worries.
through it, let's do it.
No, I love
I'm
it.
just fielding
I'd love to
questions as
keep it
they pop in,
conversational.
and you've got a slide for it. I love it. That's cool.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, implementing really starts, any of these processes start just as like any kind of marketers will do whenever they're building a campaign, which is you have to kind of define your personas and your customer journeys. You have to start with the very basics of who are your customers, what do they care about, what are their needs, why would they buy from you versus a competitor? And just like any other market or marketing tool, you have to start there and start with that as a starting point for even identifying use cases. I think once you have that, you can start pointing out the gaps of where would this technology make the biggest impact? How can I prioritize the use cases that are best utilized for this technology? And for a lot of folks, I mean, chatbots, they have some specific use cases that have a high level of potential, and it is things like doing cart abandons, helping. For example, we have a customer who currently uses us, and if someone's on the purchasing page for more than 45 seconds, and it will prompt and say, "Hey, are you having trouble purchasing?" Because frequently people will have an issue with payment processing or trying to find their credit card or whatever, and it will automatically do those types of prompts to help convert that person. We are a Meta BSP, and we have WhatsApp capabilities as well as Facebook, where if someone does a cart abandon, it will automatically message them and say, "Hey, did you forget something in your cart?" That type of work, I think it's very well suited for these types of things, as well as doing things like customer service, like we've talked about a little bit of, being that front end before someone gets to a real person. These are the types of use cases that really, work well for these types of technologies, and they do enhance that customer journey. But I think, really, this starts with choosing the right partner, choosing the right technology as well. In terms of once you've identified the use case, it's how can you best match what's available in the space to your needs and wants and desires. And I think from there, really, it goes through to, um, let me next slide here. Integrations, right? Again, the level of complexity really depends on the use case, and how you integrate with your different technology stacks or key systems is kind of dependent upon how personalized do you want the solution to be, what information you want to have access to. And that can be anything from, like we said, CRM, CDPs, help desk even e-commerce platforms. So you can kind of, again, see what people are monitor or see what people are browsing on your website and personalizing the experience to that. From there, it's very much a test and iterate type of a solution. The one kind of drawback I'd say of AI is I want to say consistency, but duplication, ability to duplicate results in the exact same way is very difficult. And if you've ever tried doing like a generative image solution, or even like something like Perplexity, where it's generating words, you ask the same question twice, and it's going to give you two different answers. They're going to be very similar. They're going to be very related, but they're not going to be exactly the same. And so a lot of times, we go through a test and implementation process where we are monitoring, in the initial kind of interactions that might happen. And then it still kind of goes back to just like any other solution or platform, iterating on the experience and monitoring it. You still have to have that human oversight if you want to do these things well. You still have to kind of feed the solution more information as you're seeing the same questions be asked over and over again, because the reality is you don't know how consumers are really going to interact with it until you start testing it.
Awesome. So a question around omni-channel customer engagement in regards to email and SMS. So are you seeing this the same type, like a chatbot rollout of messaging on other platforms as well?
Yeah, I think not strictly speaking chatbots, but definitely AI and generative, and then kind of mixing those, right? Even things like omnichannel chatbots, where if you are a user and you're using a chatbot through a mobile app, and then you go to the website, you want that chatbot to be exactly the same. You want it to continue that conversation. That's a capability that's possible if you integrate the right systems. Um, and again, going maybe back to a use case like cart abandon, having an omni-channel customer engagement solution like in digital gives you the capacity and capability to utilize multiple different channels in conjunction with something like a chatbot or other types of traditional channels like email or SMS, and do it in a way that's AI and machine learning based to help improve and enhance your results. And I could even show you a couple examples here. If I open this up. So make sure I'm still logged in. Um, but again, one of the great capabilities of AI is, and I love the concept even of AI as a general term. I think the reality is it's not an artificial intelligence solution. What it is it's applied statistics. It sounds a lot less uh fun, I think, saying it like that, but that's kind of the reality of what AI technology is. It is advanced math that is using available data and other tertiary data systems to make judgments and assessments, and then improving over time as it gets more data, right? Just like any other marketing solution, you have bad data in, you get bad data out.
Yeah,
So
it's a prediction engine, right? I think
it
I was
is
reading a book on that, and it is making the best possible prediction based on the information given it. So
exactly.
emphasis on best possible, you know, given the information that's
Exactly.
put in. And so, yeah, like
Yep.
you're saying, if you put bad information in, it will make bad predictions. But if you put really, really, really good information in, it will make really, really good predictions. And I think that's going to be another question comes up around data cleanliness. And we did a dinner last week, and they're talking about
Yep.
data hygiene. Would love to talk about that a little bit as well. But
Yep.
would love to see what you have up here.
Yes, this is our customer journey engine. This is in digital. And like I mentioned, kind of the best part of a solution like in digital, or a solution that incorporates both things like AI chatbots and other AI technology, along with, other digital channels, is you're able to create fairly sophisticated customer journey streams where you can utilize kind of the best of both worlds. You can have someone who maybe they have a cart abandon. This is just an example as a campaign. It's a pretty simple one, and you can send them immediately after a push notification through your platform and say, hey, you forgot something. You can then kind of programmatically select whether or not, if they clicked, you can send them down one path. If they didn't, you can send them down another. You can send them an email. We also have a variety of AI capabilities, things like best path. So let me zoom in here, which is going to help select which path is most likely to convert more leads. You can also do things like best channel, where it's going to select, the best channel available that's going to have the highest likelihood for open and click-through rates. And same for best time. So we have time-based AI capabilities as well. Again, this is all kind of based on your data as well as back-end data systems and predicting which of the channels based on the user dynamics and information it has, the person's most likely to click through or open or convert on. And these, again, this is an application that is used today and is well used. We have over 200 customers who are using things like best path capabilities within their day-to-day marketing capabilities and stack, and it's helping to create a lot of great results for them and for their customers.
So let's jump into just the that data piece for sure. What do customers, brands, I gotta say your customers, if you were to say best in class, what does their data look like when you engage? And is it usually a mess? And or is it just it's not a mess, it's just different from brand to brand, organization to organization. Because I think there's a lot of apprehension right now. For a long time, there's this philosophy of collect data, collect data, collect data.
Yep.
And people were collecting data and just shoving it everywhere. And they didn't have like a data ocean. They had like 400 data lakes that they were trying
Yep.
to then
Yep.
plug in and utilize. And I would love to hear how people should think about structuring the data to prep for something like this, because this is going to keep rolling, right?
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and whether it's this piece of, AI machine learning that you're this service or the other 100 that are going to transform your business, getting that data like organized in some way, shape, or form. So just a
I
couple
think
questions around that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing really around data, it comes back to a few kind of best practices. The first is you have to collect data with intent. And when we talk with customers, I mean, like you kind of mentioned, frequently their data is all over the place. It's in multiple systems. It's disparate. There's no interconnectedness. And for most businesses, I mean, that's somewhat the reality of not having enough technical resources to pull those things together. But I think if you're a marketer, there's some things that you can do to, or even a customer service person, or seeing people like CROs even. It's collect data with intent, and you have to think a year or two out. I think that's the other key thing that people frequently miss. You know, I think that's very transactional level kind of, oh, we need to collect this new thing. Oh, we need to collect this new thing, and it's kind of a reactive versus proactive. And the reality is, to be able to do data segmentation well, you have to really understand your customer base and the varied dynamics of a especially for your larger business selling products to a huge variety of people, what that might mean and how you'd segment them. You have to start understanding your customers in a real way. And to do that, you have to collect data in a very methodical way and a way that's planned out. What's actually great is that I think you said like people have been really trying to focus on collecting data, but there are some kind of market dynamics, things like, third-party cookies going away for most things, and really pushing people towards first-party data. And again, collecting data with intention. And it is also a great use case, that we've talked about it before, but it's a great use case for things like chatbots or web push notifications or other kind of systems within your website infrastructure that InDigital can help with. But for chatbots, it's another great use case of you can program a chatbot to ask questions to get valuable information to help segment your audience, and you can do so in a way that is conversational. And it can be a great way to start collecting some of those data gaps.
Awesome. Love it. And yeah, I don't know if you had other slides, but I don't want to completely derail the conversation, but as questions come in, I like to tackle them. Can you walk through some of like the benefits and the watch outs of using AI for content creation and marketing? Like, are there
Yeah,
like the really
I
great things and then the, hey, these are the things I need to be aware of? Yeah.
and I can even show you a quick example again, and I use these all the time within our system. This is just a demo instance, but even just as a practical application, let's just say, right, cart abandon notification. You're able to create things so quickly, and it's one of the things that I think has so much uh, capability, and it provides so much value to marketers today. I think, every time I've talked to one of my colleagues or people in the space, I think most marketers feel the pressure of needing to do more and more with less and less. And I think again, it's kind of consumer spending starting to go down, profitabilities again kind of being the main driving factor for many businesses. This is something that we will see more and more as marketers are frequently seen as a cost base. They're not necessarily seen as a revenue driver. So what generative AI and technology what digital has built into it allows marketers to do is to do more with less and to do it in a way that also allows for things like hyper personalization. So even if you don't have, a marketing staff of 500 or 200 or 100 or even 10, you're still able to create personalized journeys for your different personas. I think that the fallbacks of that, though, are you have to still have a human element involved, and you have to kind of do the work and effort to make sure that things remain within the brand voice and within the brand infrastructure that you've built, because you still want that consistency across your touch points, across your messaging, across all of it. And I think that's also where AI is starting to, pick up a little bit more and more, but there still are areas where, it's not perfect. I think particularly with things like photos and photo generation. Coca-Cola recently did an advertisement that was fully AI generated video. And there were parts of the video where the logo, the literal Coca-Cola logo, maybe the most valuable logo in the world, was, messed up, and it wouldn't actually say Coca-Cola. And is fragmented, and it's something that should have been caught by the brand department. It's something that should have been caught by the numerous people who probably approved that ad. And that's still where AI still has some deficiencies, and probably will continue to for quite some time, if not ever. That human oversight and element still needs to be involved in and remain, because that is at the heart of kind of what most brand messaging is built on. It is the human element, and I think that will continue to be a need.
Yeah, I mean, but this part, which you just kind of showed here, is the how can you make a brand marketer or just marketer as a whole more productive with their time,
Yeah,
right? And if you can get them 95% of the way there, I totally
exactly.
agree. If I'm on the brand side, I'm creating this, but then I'm reading it 8 times. But at least
Yep.
I didn't spend 20 minutes trying to write it. Or the different side that I find with productivity happens is just if it's something that's not like urgent to be taken care of, then it just gets pushed to the end of the day. And then sometimes it's the next day or the next day because it's just a little bit, maybe it's something marketer doesn't necessarily like to do. Maybe it takes a little
Yeah,
bit more time or it's not as productive. Where in this case, sometimes it's not just the 25 minutes it would have taken to write this, or probably maybe even 10 minutes. Who cares? But
yeah,
the fact that it gets pushed and deprioritized to later in the day or the next week, as opposed to just having something that will get you 95% of the way
exactly,
there.
exactly.
And I feel a lot better about spending 3 to 5 minutes on it than I did 20. Um,
Yeah. And one thing here I want to go back to, it just as an example in terms of, I think, kind of the pluses and the detriments of AI technology today is just an example of one of our customers, which is Abanca. Abanca is one of the largest banks in Europe. It's one of the largest banks in Spain, and it's the first bank, we believe, in Europe to have an AI-based customer service chatbot. Great, use case for us. And as you can imagine, the test and iteration process that we went through with them was very intense, because with banking, you were talking about regulations, you're talking about security. It's how does this access systems in a way that are still secure and still meet things like GDPR standards. And there is that level of effort that's required sometimes, depending on your use case and organization, but the results are also outstanding. With the Banca, they have a 90% resolution rate before ever talking to a human agent. So the amount of reduction in terms of the number of customer service inquiries and customer service staff that they have to maintain to give a customer experience that's meaningful and impactful and works well is greatly, dramatically reduced. And what that means is that for customers, they have better experiences, they get answers quicker. People also just generally don't like calling anymore. They like having a chat bot, especially younger people. They don't like being on the phone ever. They prefer texting. They grew up texting. Um, but it is something that you still have to kind of maintain and understand over time of hey, this question gets asked, and the chatbot, here's the types of answers that it have. The answers aren't perfect, that they aren't exactly what we'd want to say as a brand, and you have to adapt the models over time to fix those things. It's something that still, it still requires human intervention over the course and legacy of an implementation, and it's something that you have to be aware of as a marketer. But again, the upside's so huge that it's a relatively small amount of work compared to the upside you get from it.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, what haven't we gotten to today? And just a reminder to others, you have questions, drop them in the chat, drop them in the Q&A, and we'll get to them. Are there like main things that pop up? Like I can think, hey, what are the concerns? What are the hesitations that brands should have when they're looking at AI as a whole? Um, what are first steps? These are all things that are questions that, because we're at this weird time where all of a sudden tools like this are available and they actually work and they're cost
Yeah.
effective and they drive conversion. Like
Yep.
finally,
Yeah,
finally.
exactly.
But there's the
I think that,
hesitation, like,
yeah.
is it too good to be true? That type of thing.
I think that's part of it. I think too, especially if you're a brand marketer, it's still the reputation part that I think most brand marketers get caught up on. And I think the technology is finally at the point where you can have a bot or have your generative AI speaking in your brand voice. And like you said, it's going to get 95% of the way there. And for the vast majority of use cases, that's good enough to give you a huge amount of increased efficiency and profitability. Um, I think there are still some other trust aspects within the larger kind of AI space that people should be aware of, marketers should be aware of, and it's things like auditability, and not so much necessarily in the responses or anything like that, because like digital has advanced analytics built into the platform. You can review chats, and it's sort of very searchable and all that. It is, how did the chatbot get to that answer? What was the actual logic behind the facade of the actual chatbot? How did it get there? And I think those are the types of things that we might not ever see, because it is kind of proprietary, and ChatGPT doesn't want to have their models, how their model works out there in the space. But I think there will still be a level of trust that needs to be developed in terms of ensuring that the logic that the bots are using is sound. I think kind of also to some extent the data sets and understanding how it's leveraging and utilizing that data, making sure your proprietary data isn't being used to train other models. I think that's also something that with these businesses have gotten a lot better at, or these tools have gotten a lot better at, but it's still something that there needs to be an awareness of and cognizance of as you're implementing this type of technology, because you still want to retain um, your proprietary data. I think the final thing too, a little bit, is going to be, how can you do this in a way where it's still copyrightable, and I think copyright law in general, in terms of generative AI, is still in its infancy, and how most governments are, they're normally behind the eight ball. But if you're writing messaging and creating imagery for your brand, you got to make sure that that's something that it can't be utilized by other people. And if it's 100% created by a bot right now, it's not copyrightable. And it's something that you have to also be cognizant of as you're you know developing content, and also as you're um putting content out into the world. Of You have to still make sure that you have that protection. So those are kind of, I think, the main things that most businesses, if they're not worried about, that they should be worried about. But I think, again, in terms of the potential upside of AI technology in general, it's going to be huge. I mean, and it already is, and you're already seeing the mass effects of that in industry today. It is going to be like Internet 2.0, in terms of the vast increase in technological output and capability sets, as well as the boom in economic value that it's going to create.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, we have a couple of I guess the other side of it is, just where people are apprehensive.
Yeah.
The having these conversations is incredibly meaningful. And others, if you have questions, drop them in the chat or the Q&A. We'll get to them before we wrap up here. But these conversations over and over again, it's people like, you and in digital that are putting the time, the effort, the money into developing something that we're going to eventually use, whether it is in digital or another solution. But I mean, having those conversations, I'm sure, is incredibly valuable for you with brands as well. What are they thinking? What are their pitfalls? How can you solve for those? Because you're out there. I mean, brands on the line today, their executive teams are not saying go out and build this internally.
Yeah.
They don't have the time or the effort, or the resources, or the expertise to do it. So I do want
And
to
I
say,
think
like,
that's a great point too of I would say the vast majority of the conversations we have, it's, hey, we know we could develop this internally, but we don't have the experience, and it's such a core critical thing to our business in the future. We feel that we want to go to experts like in digital, who've done this time and time again with brands, global brands, and national brands, big and small brands, in a large variety of use cases. It's such I think an important key core aspect of what the future of most marketing departments see as their business. They want to do it right, and I think working with experts is the right approach.
yeah. Well, Josh, I totally agree. And I would like to say, thanks so much for your time today and being open to sharing and answering all the questions. I would encourage everybody on the line today, have a follow-up conversation with the team over at InDigital. They're great friends, partners, supporters of the network, doing educational sessions like this as a whole. Have that conversation with them. Ask for the watch outs. What does it look like? What does the cost look like? Like, as you're building out this next generation, like Josh, like you're saying, of 2.0, maybe it's 3.0. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Now
really.
it's moving so fast now. Maybe it's 5.0.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. Yeah, and that pace is going to continue. And as I said, partnering with experts who are looking to the future for these things is it's extremely valuable for brands and businesses, because it changes daily. Every couple days there's something new. I'm like, oh, this is amazing and great, and how can we apply it effectively in a way that makes business sense and helps build deeper connections with customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, uh, Josh, thanks so much for your time today. Everybody that's on the line, let me know if you're going to be at Shop Talk or Prosper next week. Would love to meet you in person. We're doing a couple of events out there. Thanks for all the great questions, the great participation. And with that, we're going to wrap up this webinar here. Thanks, everybody. Everybody take care, stay safe, and look forward to having you on a future event. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Josh. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks for having me.
All
Yep.
right, let's see you. Bye.
Bye.